Clock says it's about 3 minutes past 7. I'm going to open up the meeting. Call it to order, whatever it is I have to do. The first order of business are the minutes from our meeting last week. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
So moved. At the last meeting, there were questions that arose concerning the PD budget, the use of the vehicles, the expenditure lines on the equipment, and several other items. After that meeting, Selectman Constantino mentioned our concerns to the chief, and the chief offered to meet with us here tonight. He is here. So, Chief, if you're prepared, I know you're probably prepared to be here after Heather, but she's obtained. She's going to be detained a little bit. If you could, would you? Watch out for the broken chairs. Okay. When we met long ago and far away, back in, I don't know, was it
August.
Good thing I have somebody to remind me. There were questions. The first one that came up last time was in regards to your gas expenditures. It was already being overspent percentage-wise at that time, and has now been spent in its entirety for the year. Just how are you guys getting around? You walking? Thumbing?
Thank you. I'm going to give you a couple links that you could pass out there.
Thanks.
Yep, sure.
Take one and pass it down.
It gives a breakdown of...
On the fuel data, can I get a couple more copies of it from you? One for Joanna and one for...
This should be extra. Should be a couple.
What you gave me, I passed out. Were there any extras? I was just looking for two.
You made 8 total, so that would be some extras.
Thank you. Three more. Right? No. 4 altogether.
Yeah, I think you get to keep all of that.
How about Lieutenant Martin, we're going to talk about the rotation and what the cars are with and how it affects the rotation. And then I can talk about the fuel and answer any of those questions.
Okay.
Just as long as the board hasn't
Hey, how come it didn't print?
Face it up.
I faced it up. Face up.
Copy.
Thank you.
Come on, you dummy. I must be wrong.
Use the arrow.
Welcome. Where did the others go? The fourth copy? I gave Johanna one.
One for Lynn. That's all. I just want to make sure that she gets a
Gets a
copy
copy of each.
of everything where she's not here tonight.
That will make sure. So I'll start with fuel first, and then I can let Ryan talk about the rotation, how that's working. And he can kind of answer any questions about the rotation, or I can too. One of the sheets you have, the PD fuel data, kind of gives you a breakdown of gallons per month, what we use and what the average is for each year. The average for this year so far is 968 gallons a month is the average. In 2010 it was 830. In 2009 it was 955. So it hovers somewhere around 900 to 950 gallons a month average. And the second sheet I gave you kind of gives you a breakdown on the bottom half of that sheet where it says 2006-2011 cost. It kind of shows where 2011 fits in the last 5 years as far as fuel cost and price. In the last 5 years, it fares at 24,409, somewhere around the middle of the last 5 years as far as fuel costs, but we're at the highest we've paid in the last 5 years at $3.61 a gallon. And we had a 87 cents a gallon increase so far this year. So we're just, throughout the rest of the year trying to really keep the fuel amount down as much as possible, but yet still respond to the calls and still patrol, because burglaries are up and calls for service are up right now, and I think it's just driven by the economy.
What did you say the cost of the gas is right now?
$3.61 was
$3.29 September though, right?
came back down, right?
Yeah.
This was the highest amount, was $3.61. So we
In
saw
August.
in August.
Yeah.
So it's back down again, and I hope it continues to go down.
Well, it's back up again.
360, 336?
What did you budget it off, Bob? How much a gallon when you set your budget last year?
We actually just budgeted a little over 2/10 amount. I think we spent about 20.
But didn't you budget so much a gallon?
We budgeted, I think, about $1,000 over the previous year's amount. So Tim and I sat down and went over fuel and tried to average over the last 3 years where we thought it would be. And I think we were a little bit optimistic. It went up more than we expected, and so I think that plays a part in it. And two, the amount of calls for service went up this year, especially in the last quarter. So that also factors in. Some of it also could be the amount of highway safety grants we do, but that fuel is actually reimbursed when we bill them. So we bill them off of the highest officer's overtime rate in the department, and typically It's the chief's rate that we bill at, but the officers are actually the ones working it, so...
That covers the wages, but is that supposed to cover the gas and wear and tear on the vehicle as well?
We don't bill separately for that, but the amount of money that comes in, it certainly offsets it, and then we have extra patrols out there. But what I did this year was just try to control the amount of use of the vehicles, but still get the cars to calls and get them out there for visibility and make sure that we're responding where we should. So I've sat down with him. We're already working on next year's budget, and we're going to try and make sure that we don't fall short going into 2012 as far as fuel costs go. If you look at that chart at the bottom there, the biggest increase we saw was in 2008, where fuel jumped up $2.32 a gallon in 1 year. So it kind of shows you what it can do in a year as far as what we're paying.
Was there, I thought of this, and I should have gone back through, but I didn't want to go tearing through my records year after year. Can you tell me or provide to the board how many years you've met your budget in this line, in the gas line, and how many years you've gone over budget?
Yeah, I can do that.
Because if it's consistently being under budgeted, then there's a problem.
Actually, we haven't gone over in fuel in the last 3 years. I can't speak for the
Right, well, that's what I
previous,
mean. So
yeah.
this is definitely different than it has been on that.
Yeah.
It's hard for me sometimes to pull out individual lines when I'm thinking about the budget. I look at the bottom dollar, and it's being spent at the level where it should be, 75% at this time. So it looks good, but when there's a lot of lines that are being overspent, it get to the end of the year, and that can be a big problem.
Right.
Because there's no more wiggle room in any of the other lines.
In 2008, we budgeted 19, and we're at 15,069. In 2010, we budgeted 25, we're at 22,321. That, in 2009, we budgeted 25, we were at 22,277. So the toughest year for fuel, and I think it's, if you look at the average gallons per year, it's pretty much in line with the rest of the years, but in 2008 we saw that huge increase in fuel. So I think that accounts for the overage in 2008. But since 2008 we haven't gone over in fuel. And when we budgeted for fuel this year, we looked at 09 and 210, and we felt comfortable that amount would work for this year. But one of the things that is optimistic as far as patrol cars and fuel go is that they've done away with the 8 cylinders for law enforcement. So starting in 2012, they're all 6-cylinder motors, 22 miles to the gallon. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and so it's finally here. You can't order an 8-cylinder police car anymore. And so, and they say they're much more fuel efficient and offer...
Yeah, it's at 22 miles to the gallon. What is that based on? Just regular highway driving? Because it's,
yeah.
You guys are doing a lot of stop and go, and a lot of sitting.
That's what they promise
And
us.
It makes a big difference.
If we get that, I'll be happy, because that'll be a huge improvement over what the cars do now. I've always thought the motors were too big for what we do, and we don't need the big motors. And these ones are much more fuel efficient. They're coming standard front-wheel drive, but you can get them all-wheel drive. So they've made a ton of improvements, but I think agencies are going to see a big difference with fuel costs when these 6 cylinders start coming into the fleet.
In the meantime, we have 10 vehicles that are pre-1912, and it'll be many years before.
We get them all out, yeah.
Exactly. So we'll be living with what we have and having to budget to what we have, not to what, it's going to be in the future. Great, 10 years down the line, they'll be coming out with something even better.
I hope.
You guys will be running on solar power. Be
Yeah.
excellent for our budgets, but, that's a long time away.
The 6-cylinders will actually come into the fleet as the primary cars, so they'll be the ones most used in patrol. So, and that's just not for our agency, for all agencies. So we should start to see the fuel drop with those cars being used as primary patrol cars rather than secondary, to court or that detail, that sort of thing. So, and they've made it so that a lot of the equipment will move over, but I'll let Lieutenant Martin will kind of explain the rotation and when those 6-cylinders start to come in, why we put them up front, and when the equipment goes into them, why they become the primary vehicles. And so if you want, he can kind of explain the rotation.
Can I just bring a point forward
certainly
first?
can.
Chief, something I observed today, I went out to Lowe's and I arrived at Lowe's at 1:22 today, and there was a Cruiser 6C sitting in front of Lowe's running, nobody in it. I left Lowe's at 1:50, and that Cruiser was still sitting there running. If we've got gas issues, I think those Cruisers should be shut off. 1:22 when I left at 1:50, and it was still there when I left. This 28 minutes that Cruiser was sitting idling.
Take a look. See.
And I don't know why it would be idling if there's nobody in it, and it was right in front of the exit door, and it sat there from the time I went in till the time I came out, and it was running. There was big puddles underneath it by the exhaust, where both sides, where both the exhaust comes out. So I think that those are the things we got to curtail in order to bring the fuel. I mean, we're all struggling with our taxes and everything else, and if we can cut down on that, we need to. No question.
You want to just cover the rotation, how it works, and what changes the rotation, what's on the sheet also.
Right now, for our duty cars, we use basically the 3 best cars we have, which is 2010 and 2 2006 cars. Those 2 2006 cars we bought in 08. They were leftovers. We got a decent deal on them. So we rotate those as best we can to try to keep the mileage down. And, right now, I know 10A is not the mainline car this week, and the other 2 cars are, so you're going to see the 6C out there more, or the 6B out there more, depending on how many guys we have on. Every week we try to change which car is the 24-hour car, because we only have 4 shifts covering 24 hours a day. And then we have two other shifts that kind of offset, and that's an extra day shift or extra evening shift. And that car runs 16 hours a day. So we try to change that every week and try to keep the mileage down and wear and tear on the vehicles. But when a car requires maintenance, and it may be a line car, maybe the 6B, and that's the main car that week, then we got to shift everything up again. So Dennis can work on it, or it can go to wherever it needs to go to get the maintenance done. So it may actually drop out of rotation completely for a couple days.
Can I just interrupt just because I want to make sure that I'm clear and I have no knowledge at all. What you're saying is that the number 1 car for the week,
Yep.
that car is the primary car 24 hours a day for 7 days. And then it drops down to the second car, and it runs 16 hours a day for 7 days. Well, actually, because it drops down again to car 3, and then it's going to be 16 hours a day for that third week, the third car?
Car 3, Car 3 is like the backup line car. We don't have enough manpower right now to run 3 cars out, usually. I mean, we'd like to, if we can, but we just don't have the manpower right now. If we have an extra part-timer working, then he'd be out there, and that would be maybe a Friday night, shifts at evening. Then we have that third car out. That third line car there is not 16 hours a day right now. It's maybe, if we have a manpower, maybe 40 hours a week, if that, not even. Right now, we're lucky to have 20 hours.
Well, I would think that 24 hours a day, 7 days, that would put a lot of wear and tear and mileage in a very short period of time on these vehicles.
Right. And that's why we've had to have the best car out there as the number one car, because you need to have the best equipment going to a call. You don't want the wheel to come off when you're going to a call.
And then I gave a breakdown here. It shows what the cars have for equipment, and I know that that's come up before, like why can't the 4B be a frontline car? And it kind of shows there's roughly, you know, $10,000 or $12,000 worth of equipment in the primary cars between the MDT video and radar, what's in the trunk and the Opticon. And those older cars used to have that equipment, but that equipment gets moved to the new cars. And so, you know, if I was to put the officers in, let's say, the 4B, they're not going to have all that equipment. Their car stops won't be videoed. And, you know, that's a liability. They don't have the MDT for officer safety. They can't run all the information they need to find out if the suspect's wanted. They don't have the radar. So we typically fully equip the 3 primary vehicles, and then we don't have enough equipment to do the rest of the fleet. So that's come up before. You know, Chief, can the primary car be the 4B this week? And that would be why not. You know, and to move all that equipment and rewire the 4B just for a week to shift everything over would be a lot of work, and an expense too. So I think in a perfect world it would be nice if we had all that equipment for all the cars, but we just don't.
Chief, through, and you can, Lieutenant, also, if I look at this, the 6B, 6C, and 10A are the primary front cars, right? And if I look at this internal report that we were given for the service, 6B has put 18,000 miles on this year, 6C has put 13,000, and 10A has put 27,000. How do you explain that if you're rotating the cars? How do you have twice as much miles on one car as the other if you're rotating? I don't understand that. I guess that's the concern I have.
Well, the 6B and the 6C have had more maintenance this year than any other year. I believe the 6C had a transmission, and 6B had a motor issue, which they took most of the big chunks out of the maintenance budget.
They could be down for a month while they're
getting estimates.
Yeah, we have to get approval to get the transmission, then order it, then have it installed.
But would it account to have, like, you know, I look at 6C, has 13,000 on, and we put, through the same time period, we put 27,000 on 10A, twice as much mileage. It just doesn't, it just doesn't seem, I can't comprehend how you can have any type of rotation, even if you have a car down for a while.
If you have an active officer, they can do 100 miles in a shift. In this time, you do that 3 times a shift, it's 300 miles a day. I mean, by the end of the week, you're accruing a lot of time. So we try to rotate as best we can, but that car is the best car, so it's gonna go down less for maintenance. The other cars are gonna go down more for maintenance, and it's just.
I know as of this week, the B and C are actually equal in mileage, within 700 miles of each other. They're identical, and
You mean the total mileage on
total
them?
mileage. And in 2008, when we got them, by November of this year, they were equal within 1,000 miles of each other. So it's, you know, I think years past, the old philosophy was take the new one and just run that one 24/7. But in 08, we started to rotate them when we got those 2 new cars, and since then we have, and historically that 10 right now would be probably double that mileage if we weren't rotating it. So. But maintenance issues do put a wrench into the rotation at times, and it depends on the amount of time they're out for maintenance. So.
So what do you anticipate, Chief, for your budget being over as far as your gas line? You've got 3 more months or 4 more months to go on this. This gives us 8 months here on the sheet that you gave us today.
Usually if I see that we're going to be over in a line, I'll start to look at other lines and see where I can move the money to and basically freeze spending in those other lines to make sure that I have enough in my bottom line to cover it. So, and I meet with Tim to talk about it and make sure that we're okay. And so right now he and I both feel we're okay. There's some money in other lines that we can put towards that. And I looked at the last 10 years and it's happened a couple times to other chiefs where that fuel line's gone over, and sometimes it's just driven. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a mileage usage problem, but a cost usage, and I've kind of looked at the last 10 years, and a couple times where gas jumped up, it put that line over. Once was in, I think, 2005, and maybe in 2003, where fuel was overspent, and so you do the best you can to try and figure out where it will go the next year. But I think 6 cylinders coming into the fleet and, you know, trying to make some other changes, we're going to be okay.
With the new LED lights, do the cars have to be run as much as they're being run when they're on a detail? I mean, I know LED lights did not take anywhere near the juice that the old strobe lights used to take.
Correct. However, our detail cars are the older cars, and they still have power packs to run the corner strobes because we didn't have corner LEDs at the time, and the cost of LED lighting at the time was a lot more expensive. It was come down, so we're trying to move and transition toward
Separate those out so that you can run just the light power without running the corner strobes. Because the corner strobes will draw down a vehicle in 45 minutes, it's dead. They draw that much power, and the technology is getting away from that. In the meantime, I want our vendors to shift. I don't want to have one master switch like a fire truck run everything, because we can run the LEDs and then have that car off, and that's going to be huge.
Yeah, that would be huge on fuel savings, there's no
Very
question.
big. So I agree with you.
Pat, you have a question?
I had a question for the chief. On fuel, isn't there a difference in this year when the fuel was very, very low at the gas pumps, and it was higher than what we were buying it for in the underground storage tanks at Northwood?
Yeah, at one time, a couple times in the last 6 months, we've actually paid more than the public pays at the pump. And I think that's something that we should consider to look at. And I know that a lot of other agencies have come up with a plan B where they're buying a wholesale rate at Irving as an option, so that if all of a sudden our underground tank prices jump up, we can buy cheaper with our commercial cards. At Irving, I know Meredith PD, New Hampton, San Bernardino, Meriden, Plymouth, Ashland, all have those commercial cards, all those towns. And I talked to them, and whatever's at the pumps, they will sell it to us 5 cents cheaper a gallon. And he said, they said that they sell that fuel to our wholesaler, who then fills our tanks. And he says, I can sell it to you for what I sell it to him for. So I think that's something to consider at times.
But I don't believe the road tax is on the one down at the highway, is it? Down in Northfield? I don't believe there's road tax on that fuel. No, I think that's where the big savings comes in, Chief, on that, is that there's not supposed to be any road tax that we're paying on that, where it's being used for municipal vehicles.
I think it's just something we could explore, take a look at.
Look at that versus the impact the diesel surcharge that would be charged, or the gas surcharge that would be charged on top of the price.
I mean, for the storage tank, in case that fails.
Kind of a, you don't have
Pay
to,
that fee, a tank fee. So if someday the tank will have to be replaced, there's a fund in place.
I mean, it's one of those,
Surcharge per gallon.
They're going to put it at 5 cents. I think that's what they were talking when we were at that meeting.
If we have an account with them, Scott, we don't have to use it. We can put it in the safe and keep it for emergencies, but if all of a sudden we look and we go, oh my God, we can buy it 40 cents.
But how, I guess what my point is, Chief, is how is the patrol officer going to know what we're paying down at the Northfield at the
No,
time?
we'd have to evaluate,
You know, that's-
administratively evaluate it and make a decision.
Yeah. But I think it fluctuates every month, though, Catherine, because I know I asked Kathy at the Water District to give me, and you know, it started out in January at 261.9, February was 278, and then up to March it was 311, April 330, and then in August you hit the high of 361, in September it was back down to 329. So, I mean, it fluctuates every month.
I know when it was at 329, it was out here for 325 the same month. So I kind of looked at it and said, God, are we paying more than the public's paying?
But you see, the trouble is, I think where they get caught in Northfield on the gasoline side is that on the diesel side, when the buses are running, they're going through more than a tank a month. So they're getting filled up a couple times a month. On the gas side, you have you know, the PD and Tilton and Northfield using it, the Water District, and then Dennis at the highway, and probably the trucks at the highway in Northfield. There's just not enough. I believe it's 8 and 4,000 gallons, so they'd have to go through 4,000 gallons of fuel, or probably 2/3 of that. They'd stick it, and when it get down to 1,000, then they'd look for a 3,000 gallon drop. So the trouble is, if they fill up the front of the month, and it's at the high of the month, and then you're going to be paying that for the month. Yeah, you're going to be paying what they paid to fill the tank up. So that's how they're charging out that.
You don't pay road tax when you get through Northfield, right?
No.
I know they used to have it set up so that if you did farming or a boat or recreation vehicles, you could keep track of that, send it into the state, and they'd
Still have.
reimburse. So, you know, we could get the dis.
You still
we wouldn't
can
have to
with
pay
boats
that.
too, if you're using it in your boat.
Where I work with my farm tractor.
So it might be
And you submit it to the state and they send you reimbursement.
they send you a check.
Wow.
So that would be, what's the tax? Road tax?
I don't have any.
Pretty substantial, I think.
But I mean, if you ever wanted to have them come out and talk to you or do a presentation, I can, help you think about it.
You could even keep track of the road tax.
Of course, my fear with the tanks down in Northfield is with the school district. The second that the bus contracts go out, and I mentioned this before, the second the bus contracts go out and a bus contract comes in, bidded as natural gas buses, that tanks, we're going to be obsolete down there. Because there's no way the towns and the outside of the school district is going to be able to afford to keep those tanks going. So that's a concern that I have, and I know that's on the horizon, because that's the first thing that's going to happen with the buses. They're going to go green and buy natural gas, so they would have, wherever they park the buses, they'd have a natural gas actually fill up, and they'd fill up right there with natural gas as opposed to gasoline, or diesel, I should say. Well, they're the big user.
Right.
I mean, when you look at the gallons, they're the huge contributor down there for the buses, the bus contract.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of time.
I had another question. Look at this sheet, the internal service PD. Can you just tell me which each of the vehicles' primary purpose is?
Yep. Starting at the top, the 11 is supervisor only, 10 is patrol, 6A is
The 11
supervisor.
The expedition.
It's the SUV.
Yeah.
Don't the detectives use it sometimes because it's unmarked? I mean, it's really unmarked.
Yeah,
Don't they use it occasionally?
we use it during that counterfeiting thing at the outlets. We use it on midnights to look for the burglars. When we're having a problem in a specific area, whether it's burglary or crime, we'll try to flood that area with unmarks versus marks. But yeah, and it's very inclement weather. The 10 is patrol, 6A supervisor. It's in the rotation for supervisor, and you have a copy of that. B and C, 6B and C are patrol primary. D is unmarked, chief administration. 5 is the third supervisor car in their rotation. 4A is the car that's being used for the school resource officer. The B is the unmarked detectives, and the 03 is unmarked detectives. And the prosecutor shares whatever cars the supervisors aren't using, so if they weren't using the 05, he would take that to court. So I guess you could put supervisor/prosecutor in 05 and the 6A. But the cars that are attached to detectives and equipped for them with their trunks are set up for investigations are the 4B and the 03. One's black and the other one's white.
What's MDT, Chief?
Mobile data terminal. That's what they run the plates with, warrants and that sort of thing.
And you did not put that in 11A? I thought we read something where, did you put that in 11A finally? No?
No.
The amount isn't the same. The amount we had was almost 10 years old. It wasn't going to fit without serious modification, and we didn't have the money taken in, so there isn't.
Money's tight.
It is.
Real tight.
So we have, and it has no video in it either then?
Correct.
And does that go with the MDT, the video?
No.
They don't go hand in hand?
It's a separate unit.
Now, where did the MDT unit come out of that you talk about, Lieutenant, that doesn't fit in it? What vehicle did that come out of?
It came out of 2002 Expedition.
Okay.
When you have the money to buy the mounting, you can use it to put in it.
You can probably put it back into this one.
Any more questions for the chief? Anybody else?
Six-cylinder is going to be less expensive? Will the six-cylinder cars be less expensive not to run, to buy?
They're coming in right now about the same.
Up 28,000 or so.
Yeah, well, the state bid price we think is going to be between 24 and 26, and then it's usually about $1,000 over.
Are they going to be all-wheel drive?
It's front-wheel drive and $1,000 more for all-wheel drive. So for that extra option, you can go all-wheel drive. They're a whole different looking car, and actually, I can show you what they look like.
Are they the Fords or the
Actually, the
Convicts?
Chevy's the same way.
Is it going to, our LED lights on the top that we have, the
Yeah.
short one's going to be obsolete then?
Nope, no.
No?
Actually, you know,
Be able to be retrofit?
Ford did something. Yeah, Ford did something that I was kind of surprised they did, but they put together a panel of police chiefs from around the country when they created the new cruisers, and they said to the chiefs, you know, what do you want to see? And I guess they all said, we want to make sure they move over. All the equipment moves over, the cage, all that stuff.
Because that's a big expense.
There is a big expense. The cages, or they call them prisoner petitions, because there's 8 airbags in the new cars now. There's a kit, an adapter kit for the petitions, so when you move them over.
If you have a newer model cage, we've been recycling our cages for 10 years because we have to be crown big. So, you ran into the same problem with the Expedition, the cage couldn't move over because of the airbags. I don't. Of the airbag?
But no, the new cars.
So if we have a newer cage, it can transfer over, and we recommend it with a kit for airbag compatibility. If not, then that's a $400 expense.
They don't look anything like what we have now.
So are the airbags that come out in the back, is what you're saying?
Yes.
The side curtain airbag, the brackets for the cage mount to the side B-pillars, and if it's not compatible, it'll flip that airbag open like voice, so.
Great.
Cover the person in white.
Yeah.
They have been asking for more fuel-efficient aerodynamic cars for years, and finally they're here, thank God. So,
Now, these are Fords, and you said they were going to look at Chevys, or we're going to look at Fords?
well, both. They're about priced comparatively, and the gas mileage and the options are about the same. Ford, Chevy, and Dodge came up with real similar packages. You can get them double that or all of that. Prices are within $500 of each other. So then it just becomes which dealership you're going to use. And I don't know if the equipment moves over on the Chevy, so Ford was the only one that actually impaneled police chiefs to decide how they want to create the new vehicles, and I don't know if
There's been speculation for the transfer.
If you went with a four-wheel drive sedan, would there be any reason to have SUV after that?
Yes.
There still would be.
Yes. If we are out there still, even when the road hasn't been plowed and there's a snowbank, we can still get through it. With the sedan, you might not. You might get halfway through.
Even with all-wheel drive.
even with all, yeah.
It's the
But it's-
ground clearance issue is what.
Yes. Well aware. Boy, I miss my Yukon.
Heading in the right direction.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming in, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
You know, all I can think of? RoboCop.
Yeah.
That's what he drives.
That's what it looks like.
I'm fine. I don't ever want to ride in the police cruiser, ever.
You don't ever want to ride them?
I don't want to ride in them, ever. I prefer to stay away from them. I do not want to be in one. Nope,
Pretend to be a
nope.
client.
Exactly.
It's real easy not to do.
Exactly. Behave myself. Thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate it.
Saw that well. I'm sorry, but I had to give the dog a bath after his bowl or something. Yeah, it was interesting.
We tend to do that.
We love them.
Then he hid and everything. So, you wanted me to go over the outside agency requests.
The outside agency requests only. Those are the only things that we're looking for, because you are the one, you do an excellent job managing the welfare agency here in town and making sure that the things get done. I know you work very closely with the outside agencies to help provide those people in town who need additional services with those services. And so you know best which of these services work for the town and which ones don't. So that's where our request to have you come in year after year lies. And that's just, you give us the lowdown on who's doing their job for us and who isn't.
And it's important for me to have these resources to keep the cost of the towns low, because if I do not have them, or if they're not available, then it ends up costing us more.
Correct.
So, I'm really invested in who's going to do it. I'm going down this list that Joanna gave me.
Yep,
And I
perfect.
just grabbed some of Sandy's requests because I wanted to double check what I thought to see what they wrote up, because I didn't see it.
Can she talk into a microphone?
This one work?
Yeah.
Okay. I just grabbed Sandy's, like the packets everybody sent you, because I didn't get a copy of them, but I went through and figured out ahead of time what I knew from my experience. The first one on the list is the Genesis Behavioral Health.
Right.
My opinion has not changed since last year. I find that Genesis does not provide the services that the town needs for our residents. And I see a lot of residents that have mental health issues. That is a significant portion of the clients I see. And when I ask them repeatedly where they go to the doctor, who services them, and I've actually kept a tab since last year, I haven't had one person come into my office that sees Genesis.
Even on an emergency basis?
Even
because
on an
that's
emergency, they're asking for the money.
They're asking us for money. Comes in time and time again due to the fact is that they are mandated to provide emergency services.
I understand that, emergency, and
So that's what they like to stress, that's what I want to stress here. Have you seen them or been aware of them providing emergency services to the town?
No, and I have to tell you, I've also sometimes coordinate services with the police department because there are times when there are clients that I become aware of that may be a danger to themselves, and I will contact the police department, and the police department become involved. And we had a couple, I can think of 3 occasions where the police department actually transported people to Concord so that they didn't have to go through Genesis last year. Because
Is that Riverbend down in?
Riverbend. And Genesis, and the reason is because Genesis is not quick to respond, so, to Lakes Region. So they knew the police department, and when I said, well, why did you go with them, or what happened? And the chief and I talked about this at length a couple times, and he said, well, it's because Riverbend will respond more quickly, and we know what we can get there. I do believe from talking to people who move out of the area or who moved into Tilton that they used to see Genesis, but once they come down here, they do not. And so that's why I really can't recommend, even for emergency or non-emergency, I'm just not comfortable recommending funding them.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
I think you answered it with Riverbend. I was curious if it was Genesis and who is the provider.
It's Merrimack County, and that's just how it works out. And you can check. The chief and I both said, well, where do you go and what do you do? And he's taken them down to Concord because that's how you get them service quicker.
Riverbend and Merrimack County program, and they take our residents from Belknap County.
There's a lot of crossover between the. We get a lot of services from River. I mean, it goes back and forth. I find. I think we talked about that with another issue yesterday.
I remember last year.
I think they get a lot of state funding though, too.
Yeah.
When we questioned
Riverbend does.
it wasn't that crossover.
Yep.
So, I wish, if I thought that they were available, I'd say yes, but I really don't.
Whom are they available? Laconia?
Laconia. Meredith gets a lot of help from them because when I talk to other welfare directors who do they say? Meredith and Laconia seem to be the primary users. And that makes a little sense, but... the next agency, CAP. I cannot say enough good about CAP and Gail Lyman. CAP and I talk at least 3 times a week. Frequently there'll be a client who, for one reason or another, comes to me and maybe I can help them with part of what they need. And I'll call Gail and I'll say, can you help out with the rest? And we really collaborate, and it keeps the cost to the town. They help out with the electric fuel, electric discount program, the fuel assistance program, everything.
Mr. Fix-It, all of it,
Mr. Fix-It, yeah. They just cover so much. And, I mean, Gail knows me so well. She has my home number and my personal cell numbers. Called me on vacation and says, this is what I'm dealing with. And I really rely on what she says, and we go back and forth.
So if she finds somebody from Tilton that needs the aid that the town would provide directly through the town, she'll send them back to you, and vice versa.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, she's really good at partnering with us so that our costs are not escalated.
They figured out how they're going to serve their client base with the cut in their fuel.
I don't know that yet. Catherine, tomorrow I should know, but I don't know that tonight. I'll know better tomorrow. I'm concerned.
It's a big concern.
It's a major concern, but I can't tell you till I know.
Well, it's a huge cut across the whole country,
Yeah.
as far as for that fuel assistance
We sure have a lot
program.
of money, millions to sink into little private airports.
Everywhere.
I have to tell you, though,
Why? You know?
I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic because over the 18 years I've done town welfare. I want to say about 8 or 10 years ago, there was a big story that they were going to make this kind of a cut, and then it didn't end up materializing at the last minute. Somebody came in and helped
Well, I
out.
think whether they make whatever they make for a cut, it was on the news the other night that the average person who uses fuel is going to be like $200, $300 more this year.
It's $300, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's going to be a cut, no
That's
matter
gonna
how
be
you
a
look
cut.
at it.
Right. And last year, what happened was, 2 years ago, there was federal money that people got for fuel assistance. And then last year, they didn't get that additional federal money, so it was about half. But unfortunately, our clients sometimes budget on what they had gotten the previous year, so that really hurt them. So say they had gotten $900, they expected getting $900, and they ended up with $450, and that really threw them. So then they ended up coming to the town a little bit more. So that was a little bit of an issue. The CAP Winnie Transit System, I was not familiar with this. I just asked Sandy to look at it. But I really strongly feel that this is a value and to the town, and this is one of the reasons why. When you look at town welfare guidelines, a car is not a basic need. So I can't count a car, I can't count insurance, which everybody says, oh, well, that's, they need their insurance, their gas, and everything. But I have to require people to do job search, and I have to require them to do 5 a day. Having the public transportation available to them to do the job search actually benefits the town. So I think that this will save us money. In addition, it will help a lot of the seniors, and people get to doctor's appointments, and it used to be people would come in and say, well, can you help me with gas, can you help me with this, and we can't. So I think it's very important that we try to find.
Is that going to, is this something new they're starting, or are they just trying to go out and get funds from different towns
They're trying
now?
to get funds. They did have it before, and I've had the bus route up before, but I think that there was a cut. They didn't have the money they needed.
Have they recently taken it over?
I don't know, I'm asking
No,
that
they
question, I
they
guess.
have a new person who this year did get a grant, a large federal grant. And in order to keep that grant, she needs matching funds, and that's why she's going to the users of the transit.
So she's going to all the towns, Jane?
Yes.
Okay.
And they,
And they're coming in next week, so we...
Okay, that's all right.
And I've been involved with them, and Pat's been involved with that whole program. Joe's been involved with it. It's
Well,
very valuable for our
Can't be good
seniors.
if Joe's involved, come on now.
No, well,
My participation is very worthwhile.
and I'll say this, and I'll say the same thing about Gail Lyman. I've been involved with Gail on several occasions where we've had handicapped people who've come to us for help, the chat committee, and also seniors. And she's been extremely helpful in either getting them the necessary fund that they need or giving them the correct person to contact in order to get additional help. She's very, very good with them.
When the Saki transit system, there are 2 bus lines. Each one confused you.
And I think that's where I get confused, Pat, is that there's,
Rural transportation, that is a senior transportation, where seniors get, they pay 50 cents and they can drive. And the disabled pay a little bit more and they're able to drive on, a few years back, they couldn't drive on.
and who runs that? That
Yeah.
CAP runs? And this is something different they're going to run outside of that?
Transit is public transportation where, children can get a ride for soccer practice if they wanted to do it.
It'll be basically a bus route.
Public transportation.
So you go to a stop, is that how this one would work?
You go to a stop,
Yes.
or they can deviate from the stop if there's an elderly service.
you call ahead.
Okay.
Within a quarter of a mile route, they can from that route and pick up the elderly.
And I know historically there's been a real hard time getting the funding to maintain a bus route. There's been a number of agencies over the years that have done bus routes from here to Plymouth, and it's been so hard to maintain them. But from a purely welfare standpoint, it's valuable to us to have it.
So like if a young mother could get on this and go to the store or go to where, okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
all right.
Take the child to daycare,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
okay,
Get a ride to work,
And that's
get a
what...
job.
okay.
There was a couple that I really can't speak to, Lakes Region Planning Commission.
No, those
No,
wouldn't be.
we're
The next
fine.
one that would be the
Visiting-
VNA.
And the Visiting Nurses Association, again, the clients that I have dealt with have been very happy with the services and say that they could not do enough. I lost track of how many people we had, but I was trying to keep a little tally. And then the summer, in June, I think I got hit with a whole number of people. But the VNA was very helpful for my clients, and they are out of Franklin, so.
And the VNA doesn't help just people who need assistance, they help everybody.
Yeah, they help.
Oh, yeah, they do.
I've used them.
I've used them.
Several occasions.
And they also run a
Hospice program, which is very valuable to people trying to stay in their
and a
homes.
companions program.
Yep.
Yep.
And the new mothers,
Senior companion.
they do a program for new mothers that is very helpful for some of our clients who, becoming a mom for the first time is kind of overwhelming. And they help them and kind of teach them how to bathe the baby and those kinds of things that you really need. So I think that's a valuable resource to have. Child and Family Services. In years past, I had kind of said, they weren't providing a lot, and then last year I saw an increase, and they are. They have increased the services to the town. So again, I would say that is something that I think we could support funding. I do see a number of people whose families have benefited from services from Child and Family Services.
Now, don't they also do the mother program, when they came in here last year, I believe I remember them saying that we'll have to reiterate that with them, I guess, but a parenting class.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a parent, I actually had a father do it, so, but, the next one on the list is Recreation Council, the Pines, I believe.
You wouldn't.
Possibly,
I do know
they help out, like families that have kids, do they incorporate them into the programs if they can't afford them?
That's been a problem. And in the summer, it's been a real problem with people because they're first off, it's very hard to get scholarships through them. And instead of going through like the welfare, if I recommend somebody or something, I haven't had the response that we really need to get the kids in the camps. And so I don't know what they do in Northfield. I can only speak to what some of our really low-income families in Tilton have seen, but I've gone elsewhere looking for camp scholarships.
Can you elaborate a little bit of that, Heather? So you go and you ask them to give you assistance with?
And they tell me, I'll say that, this Mary Jo has come in with her 2 kids, and Mary Jo works at the outlet mall, and she needs care for the children for the summer. How can I get them a camp scholarship? And they'll say, she has to come in, but we don't have that much money for scholarships. Well, how can I make sure and I've said I can write a letter attesting to the fact that they are really needy. And I'll give you a call back. I never hear back. So I call back again. And I've gone back and forth on this. Last summer there were 4 or 5 families, so we went back and forth. Finally, I ended up looking for camp scholarships and other programs. And we were able to find some private camps that were able to take them, or actually one person brought out a personal check.
So a scholarship would basically let the child stay there for the summer, for the programs? Yeah. That's good to know, because when they come in front of us.
Yeah.
Now, is the same director still down there? Because there was wasn't there a new guy last year?
Guy last year.
Jim Dell.
No, it's like his second year, I want to say. Yeah, because that's why we...
Just finished up his first year.
Yeah.
But if I'm having trouble to getting them to respond and to call back, what about this poor mother or a single father, actually we had one last year, that is overworked, trying to keep everything together and doesn't know what to do, but needs his job so he can pay his rent so he doesn't come to the town to help. So that's kind of one of those areas that...
I get calls every day about what Heather's talking about. They offer nothing to people who can't pay or can only pay a little. I had one woman, she had 3 kids, and offered to pay them something. It wasn't much, but something.
What is our $60,000 buy-in then that they're looking for?
I don't know.
Very interesting question.
I know, I have
We did ask them to, to get grant funding. Obviously, they have not done so.
That's
So-
another recommendation I was going to make, that, there are grant funds out there. I mean, I know in the...
I've gotten some. They got almost $43,000 in funding last year.
Really?
But they've raised their thing $5,000.
I mean, I know the town I live in, there's, for instance, they have a rec department, similar camp program for people, but there are 20 scholarships for the kids in town, and they go through the town welfare to do it. And a lot of other towns do it that way.
Now, what would they be charging, Heather, not to interrupt, but what would they be charging? What would, like, if you wanted to put a kid down there and they had to pay for it, what would it be?
It was
130, 150 a week.
week. I thought it was 140, but, yeah,
Their summer program, that's about what it is.
I thought it was 140.
Kids a lot like you, Joe.
Oh, well, that, but, I mean,
So 100 and a
Yeah,
half?
but
that's
that's
a
not
lot
the
of
same
money if
thing.
you're making.
I know, but what I'm saying is, so, I mean, 100 and a half for a week, and how many weeks are we talking about in the summer? 8 weeks? So you're talking, what, $1,200
You're talking rent.
per a kid? Well, no, what I'm saying is, I'm trying to figure it into what we're paying them. You know, you're talking, if you made half a dozen requests, the most you're talking about is $7,500.
Right, but, the town's giving them plenty of money that they should be being a lot more helpful.
Yes, that's what my point is.
If you look at their summer programs, say they have 10 kids in one of them, and I'm just throwing it out there, and you have 3 more kids you want to add to that, their overhead costs are going to stay the same.
Right.
They have 3 more or 3 less. They're still going to have the teacher there, they're still paying that cost. It really doesn't cost them
That much, once you get to a
any
point.
more money, once you get to that,
6 or 7
Well,
kids.
I think something
to
that,
have 2 or 3 extra kids.
my point here, Catherine, is I think when these people are in front of us, okay, and we're start talking about funding them, are they willing to give us 10 vouchers that we can hand to you, and you have them in your hand, that gives a person, that if you have a family like that, you have 10 vouchers that, here's a voucher, go down there, and that gives you, for the summer, for those 8 weeks, for your child, for your
Even if
program.
they gave a half a scholarship, you know what
No,
I mean?
I don't, I'm just saying, if you had 10 vouchers,
Yep.
say, hey,
If they
it's
were
not going to
going to
cost you
work with the
anymore,
town
give
more.
us 10 vouchers.
I'd be
know?
happy if I got callbacks. You know? I mean,
Don't worry, that'll be something.
I
that
look
we-
for more than that because of what we're giving them, Heather. I think
A lot of
it's,
money.
I don't think that there's no reason why they couldn't provide to the town, if we're funding them the way we're funding them, that they could not provide us vouchers that you could have in hand in case there is families that definitely need it.
Matt and I went over there shortly after town meeting and talked with them, and talked with the director. That was one of the questions we asked him outright, and he said to us, oh yeah, we can do that. Not for vouchers, but to have
Scholarships,
scholarships for kids
or
that...
partial scholarships.
Don't you
or
agree?
anything.
Vouchers?
We just got a flyer we just got their whole program for the
Winter?
fall and winter for their programming, scheduling, and fees. And everything is a fee structure, everything. And it's a weekly fee or a monthly fee or...
And it's not a sliding scale at all. They don't offer a sliding scale. And it's $25, I think, for Tilton or Northfield residents, and $35 for out of town. So they're providing services for other towns, apparently, as well. With our money.
Tilton and Northfield is who they normally...
but
Samberton does not fund them, though, I don't believe, do they? On their budget?
No, because their kids go to
For the
the
winter
school
school?
district, they allow them to participate.
Well, according to this flyer, they allow any other town to
Franklin
participate
does
if they pay
send kids
additional
to
money.
it. There are some kids from Franklin. I mean, I know the only time I ever had any real positive was one time there was around the holidays. There was an issue with a family. We were doing some fundraising, and they actually contributed to it. But that was about a year and a half ago. It was 2 years ago now. So I wish I could say, I don't know, maybe they do something for the seniors in town that I'm missing, but I haven't heard of it.
Tai
Is
Chi.
that something you're faced with every year, Heather? When the school gets
Tai
out?
Chi and fall
School gets out, or
trips,
the month
that's all
before
I
school
know.
gets out, 'cause
Chi.
the- you know,
Sick
mom-
Right.
Parents start
Martial
panicking
arts for-
what they're going to do?
And it's,
And what's your normal amount of people, would you say? A range, 6 to 10?
last summer it was one of the worst. I probably had 15 last summer.
15?
But, I had 15 kids, because I had some bigger families.
Yep.
But it's normally somewhere between 6 and 10. This summer, it just happened to be, we had a mother with a number of 4 kids, sort of twins, and what do? I can't say, well, stay home, so,
No, go out and work. with
Yeah.
vouchers, So, yeah, okay.
so that's,
What's your
For
feelings on...
60,000, we could send
Well, we're going to be faced, we're going to be, the reason I'm saying this,
places.
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking ahead, we're going to be faced with the same scenario we faced with last year. If we don't fund them, they're going to come forward with a warrant article, there's no question about that. We know that.
Back to hall.
That's going to happen. So if that should take place, I think my position would be, well, provide us with X amount, number one, so we get something out of it, provide us with X amount of vouchers, so at least that Heather can distribute them to the people that need them. So at least it's helping people within the community that definitely need that help.
Right. Don't tell us you're going to help us, show us you're going to help us.
I want to see the vouchers. I want to see something come forward, yeah.
And I
want
know-
to see them come forward before you get your first check.
And
Have them in hand.
I think they have helped some people, but they haven't been our people. That's the thing. They've been over there.
Well, that's fine, that's fine, but I mean, we should get
We should get equal.
if we're giving them $60,000, I want to see something that we definitely can hang on to say, this is what we can give back for services to the people at Tilton.
Right. And other recs departments do that. It's not uncommon.
No, as Catherine said, it's not going to affect them whether they got 5 or 10 kids, they're still going to put the program on.
After you get, like, 5 or 6, depending on the age of the kids and the ratios and all that happy stuff, you have to pay the same amount of...
I also think it's interesting that a lot of the other people have lowered their requests from us. These people went out and got $43,000 worth of grants, and they're coming back and wanting more.
Right, and we've told them already that they needed to start relying more on other people and not us, so.
And they raised it last year above, from the year before.
And what are they doing with the revenue that they're getting?
Salaries, from what I can tell.
I didn't see that.
But I'll have numbers.
That's questions we'll ask.
That those
Yeah, I'm
numbers
just
we'll
curious.
have.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay. Youth Assistance Program. This is, I know, a kind of a tough one.
Right, if you don't feel comfortable with this, we can ask the chief.
Yeah.
Because it is a court diversion program that you might not necessarily have knowledge of, but it is something that we can ask for.
I've met with the directors over the years.
And she's retiring.
She's, yeah.
She has retired.
Yeah, Sean is done with
I mean, my feeling with them in the past, and again, I do see families that have had kids involved. This year I think I had one family involved. Years past, I probably had 2, 3. I didn't have a lot. Again, my feeling is that maybe other grants, there are some other grant programs out there,
Right, and they have gone out, and they've gotten grants from a lot of different locations. They lost funding a couple of years ago from Sanbornton.
Right.
And so they've been making do without it, and this is something that, as a committee, we're going to be looking at very closely because, we're not sure that this will be another year without Sanbornton, and we're not sure if we're not double dipping with other programs that can be used, so we're going to be looking at that very closely.
Yeah, I know Melanie, the Sanbornton Welfare Director, and I talked about that, and she said, but I do see, like I said, it seems to be the lower numbers now than I ever saw before. So, the Birch Hill Kennels, I don't know anything about.
No,
The guy's very nice, but
the New Beginnings?
New Beginnings has been very helpful. We had, I want to say, I had made a number of calls about different groups they offer this year, because they have groups for people who have been battered or abused, and then they've also made calls about shelter placements, and they've been very good. And they've never said no to me this year.
They never said no to each other.
And so, which is a very good thing.
That's good.
It is new.
Yeah,
Is that the one you work with, Joanna?
It is. Yep.
Years past, I haven't had as good a response, but this year I've had a...
That's good to hear.
So,
Are they doing any more for husband men who abuse?
I had a call about that, and they did the intake right on the phone and talked to him, and he was supposed to go up. I don't know. He didn't come back to tell me if he followed up, but they were very receptive to it, and we're not, because, we do see it. It's equal
That was in
opportunity.
Deer Abbey yesterday.
It was?
Yeah. It was exactly that. The man had been being abused by his wife,
How many clients?
both physically and verbally. So,
In ballpark figure, would the New Beginnings see...
nobody reads Deer Abbey anymore. I love it.
Usually 2 to 3 at least a month.
2 to 3 a month?
Last winter, we really had a rash of issues, especially, well, you see it at certain times of the year, but wintertime was bad this past year. And especially with
A lot of housebound.
housebound,
Money.
unemployment really falls into it. The winter was a rough winter.
And we're talking about 30 to 35
The
years.
rest
Yeah.
of us.
Now, not all those people go into their shelter, but they do take part in their groups, or, you know, I have one family that I've been working with for now months, and I keep trying to get them to go. And she'll come in, and she will not be in the best of shape, and she has 4 kids. And we go through the same process every time she comes in. I call, they talk to her on the phone, she tries to make a move, but it doesn't happen. But, you know, sooner or later, you've got to assume that she will.
Yeah, if she's
there.
making the efforts, but that's, you know,
And it is sad, but they do seem to be, they've been really good about, when I call it and I say, yep, it's me again with Mary, and they'll know exactly whoever.
Lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right.
And I think that happens a lot. That's the pattern with battered women or
Yeah.
with battered men.
Till it gets so bad or something unfortunately happens.
A lot of times it ends up in their death. That's
Yeah,
the
that's what I
unfortunate.
said. Unfortunately, something happens.
Yep.
This one was a tough, I mean, the last time I saw her, I said, you know, she has 2 boys, and I said, this is what they're going to learn. So,
Harvey Kenny's the one that runs the baby bottle program. That's somebody else. You fill a bottle with money, change, and they pick it up once a month or something.
I've never seen that.
Do they? Joanna, do you know? They run a bottle they fill up with change? Bob's asking. You know?
Another group.
It may be, I know that program exists, I didn't know if it was New Beginnings.
I don't think it's, I know what you're talking about, because I've seen it, but I don't think it's that. Like at the registers, is that what you're talking
She's the
about?
registers, or they'll give a group of people, like, we'll say Knights or Boy Scouts or something,
Yeah.
and they'll, after a month, bring the bottles back with their spare change in it.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I don't think it's them.
Okay.
Red Cross, this year, again, there's been some changes in the Red Cross. I've actually had a number of meetings with them over the last since June. The whole administration structure seems to be changing, and it's for the positive, and they've been more responsive about helping people, and they've helped several families that I know of in Tilton. They've also increased their training programs, which helps my people get training so that they can get jobs. So I would encourage funding them. You know, last year we funded them at $500. I want to say we've seen a drastic increase in what they've done. I don't know if you want to go.
we had level funded them for the year before.
Yeah.
And that 500 had been, I think, for a number of years that we had been funding them, so.
I don't know where you're going to end up in the budget, but it's been a big improvement.
Okay.
And that's what we like to see.
Exactly.
CASA, again, they do a lot for our people. And $500 is not a lot of money, and they provide a lot of services.
Yeah, they're not even on our schedule or anything like that, I think everybody...
What is that? What does that stand for again?
Court-appointed special advocates.
Okay.
And there are unfortunately needs for it, so.
And they're all volunteers.
So they help the individual going through, is it usually young individuals?
Child.
Oh, okay.
They speak for the kids.
Oh, okay.
And if they speak to one child, $500 is not enough, in my opinion.
I just didn't know what they do,
They go through a big training program. No, they're,
More than just an appearance.
so it's like a big brother, big sister type of thing?
they follow through. They
More
follow
like a
through.
guardian ad litem.
Yep. But they follow through.
Okay, New Hampshire Association for the Blind.
I know that we gave them $500 last year. Last year I had questioned how many people they served. This year I know of 4 people in town. I would recommend at least level funding them, or maybe a little bit more, because I do think, used to be I could call the, I think it was a Legion. They're in my glasses. I keep a Rolodex by strange things.
Lions Club.
Oh, the Lions
Lions
Club.
Club, that's the glasses, yeah.
And I've called for a couple of people this year, and I got, well, you got to call this one, you got to call that one, and I got nowhere. So the Association for the Blind also has all kinds of adaptive equipment for people who have macular degeneration and all that, and that's huge when you're talking about somebody who's losing their eyesight, especially as they're getting older, has always been able to read. Then what do they do? And so I feel strongly they've been very good to our people.
So do you have any numbers as to how many grand residents you might have?
I don't, but I can
And
tell.
ballpark for, too.
Oh, I think it's, the age, we have more than that.
I just wonder.
We definitely have more than that. I don't know, and it's not something that I could get an easy demographic on, but I do know that with our population aging and the increased number of macular, I keep hearing about it, people
It
getting,
is something
it seems to be,
70% of the people
Somebody
over 60 will get it.
It's not very pleasant.
no, it isn't, and it's growing. And so,
We have 3 seniors right now that we take a confit on monthly or bi-monthly from Tilton.
and I do,
Confit,
And it's progressive, and the treatment is horrible.
it's awful, it's, yeah,
Shots in
it's in
your
the
eye.
eye. They take a
Needles
shot,
in your eye.
needle in the eye. But they also do, the Association for the Blind, one of the other things I found last year is they help with employment for some of their people. So that if somebody, really wants to work, which we encourage, but maybe needs some adaptive care, or they do a lot with vending machines, I guess, they've helped them do that, and I think that's valuable for our people.
There are also certain eye diseases, and I just found this out recently, that people can't drive because they have almost tunnel vision, but the Association for the Blind can provide equipment for them to wear on their heads so that they can see like we can. They have peripheral vision so they can drive, and they're independent a lot longer, can work outside the home. I just found that out, and I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, they've, anytime I've called, they've been very responsive, whereas I've had a lot of trouble. We're kind of in this no man's land with, I guess, the Lions, because it used to be Franklin covered us, and then I was told to call Laconia, then I was told to call somebody in Belmont, and it was this, sometimes where we're on the county border, it's funny. You never know what happens. In summation, I have to say that this year we've had a lot of help from some of these outside agencies.
But you still have not felt that Genesis has, out of all of these, you've given, good reviews for just about, for everybody here, except for Genesis,
Genesis
in the rec council.
and the rec.
So,
They have the most money.
yeah.
Would you say that Genesis is incapable of helping us, or they flat out don't care? Or are they incompetent?
I don't think they're incompetent. I think you have some,
I don't think they have the staff.
They have a lot of turnover.
they do have a lot of turnover.
Directors and
I talked to them pretty
nursing.
intensely last year.
Yeah, last year.
I think between Laconia and Meredith, they're maxed out.
That's just what I was
In my
going to say.
opinion.
I think
that's
Laconia,
that's the staff they have to handle the population between Laconia and between Meredith and probably Guilford too.
Guilford gets a lot,
And
too.
that's probably maxing them out, I would say.
We're probably part of their demographic because
Yep.
we're part of the county.
We're part of the county, but
they
we're
don't-
not
that
up there.
probably doesn't provide
I
them
think
with the
that's
money
what's
to
happening.
add staff.
We've never funded Genesis.
No, they have.
Not for many, many years.
They had $1.4 million last year.
Pardon?
They had over $1,400,000 and some odd thousand dollars in their reserve account
Yeah.
I
last
think
year.
individually, the counselors are
Yeah.
probably very qualified, so I can't say that they're totally incompetent, but I don't think,
It's just
The
like
agency
that.
is incompetent.
yeah.
If they're not doing the job.
And
They're doing the job for a certain population, but they don't have the staff to expand beyond a town the size of Laconia. Laconia is fairly large, and I'm sure they have.
And
if
they've had
we
a
have
lot of people
issues-
move into Laconia, because the Laconia Welfare Department,
Yeah.
last year or the year before, by July or August, they were 100% overspent. They had-
reason for that.
Yeah, but they had expended their whole budget, because I remember it was in the paper.
They have a large
Yep.
immigrant population that just showed up in the last year or two.
That's what I'm saying, I think, so that,
And Meredith has put in a number of housing complexes, low-income housing complexes, and they're serving a more disabled people, so that population has gone up as well.
so getting on to that, Lockmere Meadows, is that the name?
Lockmere Meadows, but I don't have the number. I was confining my comments to this
Yeah.
tonight, but you will get some numbers as to what that's costing us.
Okay.
Well,
They want to add on.
yeah,
I know that, and that's,
the police make more calls there.
yeah.
More free
Well,
lunches.
More
Well, that's
costs
why I
in the
want to
schools.
ask, I mean, I had concerns before, and I still have concerns. But
That'll be addressed as part of...
When I come and talk to you about my budget, I'll talk to you.
But one thing I personally want to thank you, when I look at this and you spent $24,598 out of $50,000 in this economy, I don't know how you've done it. I want to thank you as a taxpayer and as a member of the Budget Committee.
Thanks. We're working together because we're all trying to do the best we can.
I know that, but you have to face them, we don't.
But
She does her job.
Yep, and that's what I'm saying.
The directors really don't.
Yep.
But I just,
Oh, yes.
does very well.
That we're very appreciative for.
Because this is one line I thought would be over this year, to be honest with you.
you have to look at outside resources, and you have to not just look at what the problem they're presenting with, but the cause.
But sometimes, you know, Heather, it's easier just to pass the buck and say, you know what, I'm going to spend the money because I want to get them out of my office. I don't have the time today. I don't feel quite up to par. It's real easy to turn the shoulder and just say, you know, I've got the $50,000 in my line item. I can spend the $50,000. They've appropriated it. I'll spend the $50,000, and that's what I'm saying. It's you know, it's appreciative on my part, and I know the rest of the Budget Committee feels the same.
We all pay taxes and downs, and you don't help somebody by constantly giving them something. You just perpetuate a cycle.
That's exactly.
All right, so I will see you for the next, when I talk to you about my budget. And I just wanted to feel more confident in doing so, and I know more about fuel assistance.
Okay.
That, you know, we won't go over the welfare budget until we're going over the town budget that night. It will be a long night. So, you know, but that's a month away or more.
I know. I won't ask for anything.
We don't particularly, I personally, I'll speak for myself, I don't particularly have a problem with any of our budget, and never do. Because of the way you operate it. I mean, you build trust by operating it the way you do.
Okay. You know, we're in this together.
Yep.
So I will do the best I can, but I am concerned about the fuel assistance.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to be optimistic and hope it's one of those henny penny, the sky's falling, and maybe that's not really what it is, but we'll see.
We'll keep our thoughts with you. You're correct.
All right, so, we good?
We're good, thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather, for all you do.
This is what Sandy was talking about? We're talking about the fee
Yeah,
structure.
this isn't like the camp and all that.
It's their winter program.
This is their winter program. This isn't what we're talking about.
Everything has a fee structure. And last year when they came before us, they said that not everything had a fee structure. I haven't seen anything yet that doesn't have a fee structure, even in the casinos.
Thank you, Heather. Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
I like the fact that the two towns pretty much fund them. Yeah. But someone from out of district, non-resident, they're going to cost them an extra $10 a session.
And where do you see that, Catherine? I'm just...
First page is very bottom, last line.
Very bottom. Non-residents may participate on a space available pays of additional $10 per session.
Except for the White Tiger Karate, it's only $5 for non-residents extra.
And if you're returning, some of them you only have to pay $15. 35 for new participants, strong women,
Isn't that nice that we buy the services?
and 15 for returning.
Where did you see this now?
And this is payable to LRGH Healthcare, so this doesn't even go to...
Where are you, Pat? I mean, Jane, sorry.
On the third page, it's called Strong Women.
Okay, yeah.
No, we discussed this yesterday, so.
Oh, this is one of the, yeah, they contracted them to come in and do the class.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, if you remember, Mrs. Duncan came in and said to all of the classes that there was a lot of them that weren't fee-based and that they allowed them to come in. And yet,
I've never seen one that isn't.
Yeah, there's nothing that's advertised that isn't a fee.
Well, the blood pressure clinic is no fee, but they will take the money.
Yeah.
And Chestnut is free.
additionally,
Well, here you go.
Does CAP still go down there, Meals on Wheels, and put on a meal
that?
for the elderly
Chest night at the Pines.
on Thursdays? Do they still do that there?
Just drop on it.
They have the senior luncheon.
Senior luncheons?
Bring
And
your
what's
own
the fee,
chessboard.
$4? Is it $3 or $4?
Your own bed.
And how much, Pat, do you know?
I think it's like $4 or $6.
But does CAP charge that, or is it?
$2 donation.
For 60 or older, and it's $6 a person under 60.
So you can take me, Scott, and
What are
you
you
have to pay
talking
a lot
about
for
now?
you, but you don't have to pay much for me, so, well,
Yeah.
that's under
Okay,
senior
I see
luncheon.
it, yeah. Because I knew they used to put that on down there, Thursdays.
No, if they charge an extra $10 for people out of town, you know, for something that's like $30, and they get 3 people, you'd think they'd at least give one scholarship out or something, you know? What happens with the extra?
The second page of your packet that you received is a list of all of the grants that they received last year. If you add them up, I think it's like $43,000. You would think that they would at least level fund it this year.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't understand this Zumba class.
It's aerobic.
I know what it is, but let me finish, Joe. Please.
Smith, isn't she? You need some something.
It's gonna cost you $30 a month, Joe.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Jane?
There's a storefront out over where the movie Smitty's is. And it says Zumba classes. It's a dance, I think it's a dance studio. I think that's the same woman that teaches this. It costs $30 a month, or $6 per class. So is that a private business paying rent? Do they pay rent?
No, sometimes on these, they, like the
No,
line
they-
dancing, they get people to come in and do these programs.
Right.
I think, isn't there a small amount that they do pay to the Pines?
Well, I mean, $30 a month is,
He doesn't have to pay for the...
He doesn't pay
My
anything to the
understanding, He
Pines.
doesn't pay anything to the Pines. It's the Pines that is offering the archery. He teaches it, they pay him per person.
and like take off pounds sensibly that cops. Dues? I don't understand whether, I mean, it appears to me that these organizations are just using the Pines for their meetings. So we need to find out if they're paying, if they pay the Pines rent. Otherwise, we're providing space for businesses to make
You've
money.
got that paper out right now, Jane, and you're thinking about it. Write it down so you don't forget to ask.
Don't worry, I've got lots of them written down for it. I will.
I think I go back to my point. I think that, you know, we're going to be faced with a scenario that if we say zero funding, we know what's going to happen, what happened last year, that basically they come forward with a warrant article and bring their votes with them. So therefore, if we're faced with that scenario, I think, my feeling is we've got to ask, what are we going to get for vouchers? Oh, is that what that's doing? I was wondering who was making that noise. Get that thing out of here. So, but I mean, you know, we've got to get something for what we're giving them.
Exactly, oh, definitely. And I think we need to make it abundantly clear to the constituents that are not Pines users that this is
I mean, it bothers me when-
something that's going on with the town, and with $60,000, $60,000 worth of their funds, and is it not being used appropriate? Are they not following through with what they say they're going to do? And they're costing the town more money, and they're not offering any assistance to the people in town who might really benefit by some of these programs. So this is something that we just really need to make sure
And our welfare
is out
director's
there.
going out and finding other camps, summer camps for these kids outside of there. I have a big problem with that. I have a big problem with
Fund
that.
these other places,
No.
and they're willing to.
And that's the problem I have, Catherine, right there.
Right,
You
so
hit
we
it right on the
need to,
button.
once again, make this abundantly clear to
Oh, it's going to
the
be
recs.
abundantly clear when they come in.
And it's going to be clear also to the constituents of Tilton that this is happening, so that, you know, if they try again to load up town meeting,
And this year is the second year. So he
Right.
can't have the same excuses he had last year. He's got a year, and he knew that. So
Right,
when he comes
exactly.
in front of us this time, it's, you know,
Exactly.
He's asking for $5,000 more.
Exactly.
What did he ask for last year?
Right, well,
but he was the
I don't think any
director.
one of us here
I look
sitting
at
here
it,
right
Pat, he
now
was the
is
director
gonna
over
be
there
giving
when
him $5,000.
she's trying to ask for some assistance for certain people, and she's running up against,
Big no.
number one, they're not even calling her back.
Right. My point is exactly that he's not getting to the point.
Right.
Exactly.
He sat here and said, I'll go out and get funding, I'll go out and get funding. Give me another chance, I'm only new, I'm brand new. Let me get some funding, let me get some funding. And he went out and got, $43,000 worth of funding.
Which is fine.
Which is great. I think it's excellent. And what did he do? Almost 5,000 people. I think that's a
And I'm sure if you go down through the cost structure that they have on these programs, none of those have been reduced.
I heard that they have.
From last year?
Yeah.
We have last year's. We have last year's.
I have last year's paperwork. Anything they gave us, I have.
No, but I'm saying, I'm sure, she's saying they're asking for $5,000 more, which is true, but I'm sure if we went down through this cost for these programs, that none of these have been reduced in cost.
No, if anything, they would cost more.
What sticks out in line as far as what's different.
On their financial statements, don't they? You think they're giving different financial?
That's what sticks out.
Yeah.
All right. As far as scheduling, one of the things, we have paperwork now from New Hampshire Association for the Blind. We also received their request from, a written request for $3,100 from the American Legion for help with the memorial.
You have a picture of that, Kathy?
You have a picture of it? Excellent. Very nice. Very nice.
Goes from the career more on up to
Didn't her outside there were a couple of Bosnia?
Grenada, is Grenada on there?
Grenada's on here.
Bosnia was the one that voted
Bosnia's not
Bosnia.
on here, and
he said there was Carol.
Serbia?
Maybe they should just show the whole
Gonna have
globe.
to put Africa on there, too.
well, I was, what's
Well, that's a future monument. Well, they've been done with that.
Horn of Africa that we've had so much trouble with?
Oh, Somalia?
Somalia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it over last that helicopter?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Did we have the New Hampshire Association for the Blind?
Is that just a
Thanks for being
draft, or
here.
is that what they're actually doing, Catherine?
This is actually what they're doing.
That's exactly the.
Are they aware that there's maybe conflicts on
Yes,
there that
there's
they're
something
not
in there.
including, that have been within that
I
time?
thought I saw something, that was the very last
You know,
one.
Harper, when he came in to spoke to the staff, and he's the one that...
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you or... But, you know, we pointed out that...
And they were guessing what it was, he said.
That's right.
So they are addressing it, they're gonna put it on? Yeah, okay.
You haven't seen one like this. It'll be along those lines, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
I was just trying to get back to this. Does anybody, to scheduling and stuff, does anybody feel like we need to have them come in front and make a presentation to the Budget Committee?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I just, if somebody else feels that way strongly, then I would put them on the
I
schedule.
mean, we wouldn't have this country if it wasn't for our veterans.
Exactly. It's always nice to visit with them. How many hours do we need to schedule for this visit?
should we go there, or?
Okay, can you add that onto, if you haven't already, Joanna, onto the list? Is it already on there, the new
It's
one?
already on there, American Legion on the last page.
Okay. I'm working with what I printed offline, so it's, okay. And we have the New Hampshire Association for the Blind pegged in, they gave us their stuff. We're still waiting for paperwork on Old Home Day. They've been in contact with Joanna, and we know that a request is forthcoming from them. They are I'm trying to be lenient with them, even though they have missed the deadline to get paperwork into us, because
They're all volunteers.
it's all volunteers, and it's something that both towns participate in to a great extent.
That, and part of the reason they were late was I had the wrong address.
Well, that's fine. We have, I think we have lenience.
I don't think there's,
Exactly, and we have them scheduled to be in on November 16th already, so we're good.
What do you want me to write? I go type it out on the...
I was going to say, I'll give it to you right now. Do you want I'll email it to you tonight?
are they just asking for the same they
Well,
asked
see,
for
that's
last
it,
year?
we haven't actually gotten a request.
Okay.
Yes, we're just asking for the same.
If they're asking, if they're gonna ask for the same as they had last year, do we need them to come in?
We should see their paperwork and see if that's what they're gonna be doing.
Yeah, because we
We
get
can-
them scheduled, but,
We have until November 16th to
Okay.
cancel them.
Just say yes. We'll fill in the blanks for you.
I don't think so. We'll see
we're gonna
the
wait on
sheet
that
first.
Okay, the only other one that Birch Hill Kennels, we're not gonna have come in, the contract, we're not gonna have CASA come in.
No.
The other one that we did not schedule, and
Park
they-
Cemetery.
Park Cemetery, sorry, I missed that, my finger was covering that one up.
Yep.
Is Genesis. Genesis has questioned why they weren't on the schedule. And I didn't speak with them personally, but I was talking to Joyce, and she asked, they had said that they called and asked, why they weren't on there. I told her that we had wanted to wait until we had spoken with Heather here tonight, and
I mean, it was
we
an
have done
agency.
so now.
We didn't fund them last year,
Exactly. So, for several
I
years.
don't think we've ever funded them, have we?
I don't think we funded them in my tenure here, so this, for 5 years at least. we have not.
Because they only started asking when Belknap County cut their funding. They're relatively new.
Yeah. And we've never gotten a good review from Heather. So, and,
15 years ago they got funded.
yeah.
Back in the mid-'90s, mid to late '90s, they were getting funding.
From the town?
Yeah, I believe so. It was the same time they were funding the Salvation Army, and then the next year they realized that that's a religious organization, so that they didn't fund it again.
They don't seem to understand why they're only invited here. Do they understand why we're saying no? Because I would embrace the opportunity to tell them. What, are you crazy?
Well,
That's probably the wrong thing to say to the Genesis people, but...
You thought about that one, didn't you, Jeff?
Yes, I did.
They'll take you to
okay.
Riverbend so fast you won't know what hit you.
I just, if we're not going to have them come in front of them, then we should get them some sort of formal notification as to why we are going to
I agree.
be denying.
I think
Very
that,
professional.
I think it's just from what we've listened to from Heather. I mean, we take the direction from Heather. She said that they're taking them down to Concord,
Yep.
using Riverbend. I mean, why would we be funding them if we're not using them?
I think it should be worded that, from our information, you are not servicing the people of Tilton very well. If our information is incorrect, that if you could show us, then we'll be more than happy to schedule you and, give them a shot. If they are servicing, if something is, we're getting misinformation, or it's twisted, or whatever, and I'm not saying it is.
Their information, when they come to us, is that, they've been trying, this was last year, that they were trying to give us the information that we've asked for. We've asked them before, they're asking for funding for emergency services because they are mandated by the state in
Do
order
they-
to provide.
Weren't they the ones that gave us numbers, though?
But did
That
they help
said that
anybody
helped?
last year?
116 or something, or?
Well, we talked to them last year, and I have to tell you, my father was on the board of directors of Genesis, and I've never been one of their fans, so that I kind of stick in their craw. But what bothers me about Genesis is, through our talking to them last year, it was very obvious that if you have insurance, and you have this, supplemental help to them, you're in there, you're golden. But if you're on assistance, and you don't have anything, or you're not an assistance, you're down and out, they find you in the street, they will provide you with bare minimum, maybe 24-hour, I mean, just see you in the emergency room, okay, yeah, okay, they need to go to Riverbend or the state hospital or someplace else. They pass them off very quickly. And that was the gist of the conversation that we had last year with them.
They had a huge salary base
Right.
up there.
And they, I think they had like $4,500 worth of costs that were associated with Tilton residents, emergency service Tilton residents. No, that was entirety for Tilton
Yeah,
services.
for the entirety.
It wasn't even for just the emergency services, if I remember last year.
Well, if you remember right, they said they had, it was like 112 or 114, or they gave us some big number of incidences where they actually, but when you, it could have been a phone call.
Right.
When we started breaking down, it wasn't actually that they took care of that 114 individuals. It was that somehow they were contacted by,
This year, they're telling us they had 116 residents of Tilton receive services, and of those, 23 received emergency services. Yeah, okay, you need help? Go to Riverbend.
Yeah, I know of somebody that was unemployed and pretty distraught that did contact them in August and got an appointment at the end of this month to see them.
If you think,
So they could have, so if they were really...
that's going to help them out a lot.
If you're unemployed and no insurance, well, we'll get back to you. It took
That's
about a
right.
week, and then they scheduled them for the end of this month. And if somebody's
In crisis, that's
in
not quick
crisis,
enough.
they say go to the hospital, and or we'll make an appointment for
of these
October.
116 residents, they're valuing that service at $8,193.37. Now, I'm sure we've all used medical services at one time or another. That isn't much for 116 people.
The amount of information that they pass to us and the level of doctorates in psychiatry that they have, it seems that we have numbers, processes, and procedures. Nothing more. Nothing more. And it totally needs moving for our residents.
I think it's sad when you know, you listen to Heather and she talks about them going down to Riverbend, to that area, when we're, you know, when they have this up here and they're not willing, which is closer to take them to Laconia than it is to Concord, and yet they're taking them down to Concord because that's where the services is.
And not even our county dollars pay for it. I mean, that's huge.
So I agree with Bob. I think that there should be just a letter going out stating that, you know, with the information that we've been provided from the individuals that we lean towards
Town resources.
for the town resources, that the budget committee feels that the services are not adequate to.
I'll second that.
Wait,
Well, no, let's just open for discussion anyway. I think it'd be very careful how you word that letter.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just saying that
I would just tell them that,
we're not going to entertain funding them.
yeah, I would make it simple and sweet, that the town of Tilton is not going to, as we did last year and the year before, we are not going to include you in our budget. I'd blame it on the economy.
Yep.
If you say that they're not providing services, you're just opening the door for an argument.
Yep.
They're going to show up at your budget committee meeting and say, hey, you know, what are you talking about? They're going to want to prove to you that we're wrong.
So basically due to budget
I'd like
constraints.
to know that they can't deny the economy. Because that is a factor.
I don't care what we put in the letters, let us put a letter together.
No, we don't, but just.
So whatever we put in the letter's fine. I just want to see, I agree with
I will
Bob.
put a letter together and bring it into our next meeting, and we can review it there,
Sounds good.
make changes before it actually goes out.
And just instruct Joyce that if they call, want to know where the budget, it's under review. Simple as that.
And Tony, I'd even be careful about blaming it on the economy, because they could come back and say, well, that's all the more reason people are stressed and you will need our emergency services. We can say, we have budget constraints because of other issues.
You know, this would be, we're talking about Genesis and we're talking about not funding them, but we have not taken a vote of any sort as a budget committee.
We
as
really
such.
haven't, have we?
So-
No motion on the table.
No, no. You just kind of
Here's the writing the
writing
letter.
the letter, but, you know, we haven't
We're in
even
the
decided.
discussion mode now on that.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we don't fund them.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion,
We already
and
have a motion on the table that's not been voted on.
Well, I'll withdraw my first motion, if John will withdraw the second. Okay, I'll make a motion we don't fund them.
wait a minute. Wait, let me, just to make this clear for the record, we had a motion on the table that was not announced by the chair to write a letter to Genesis in regards to their funding by the Budget Committee. That motion was seconded, and there was discussion being talked about without that actually being put out there, that we were actually had a motion that was being addressed. Subsequently, that motion and that second were withdrawn, and a new motion was put out on the table to not fund Genesis Behavioral Health. That motion was seconded. At this time, it is being discussed
We're in discussion.
in regards to that motion. Okay, is there anybody that has anything else they would like to say on the Budget Committee here in regards to funding Genesis? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of not funding Genesis Behavioral Health, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody, any nays out there? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay. With that being done, as Genesis was not provided the opportunity to come before us, as in years past, where we have not funded them on a regular basis and are not funding them again this year, I will prepare a letter to them, which I will bring before the Budget Committee next week, so that the Budget Committee can review the letter, make sure that it says what is appropriate to be said to Genesis, that they know that they are not being funded by the town, and we are not going to be having them come before us to address this situation. Okay?
Yep.
All right. All righty. So other than that, we do have everybody else that we need to coming before us. And we've actually taken a vote. Yay, Budget Committee's moving forward. We went over the financials last week. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up now in regards to the financials? Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to whatever's left on the agenda. Other business. Is there any other business that needs to be addressed by the Budget Committee?
I'll make a motion we adjourn at 10 minutes to 9.
I have something to bring
Oh,
up.
sorry about that, Jen, go ahead.
I just have an announcement to make that I thought all of you would be happy to hear about. The chat committee has received the grant from Home Depot. Home Depot will be going into the Grange Hall, will be completely finishing the kitchen and the bathrooms, and it will be operational hopefully around the middle of November. So I just wanted to make that announcement. We did get the grant.
Good for the town.
Which is great, because it opens us up for other grants, a lot of other grants that we're talking a lot of
So is
money.
it material, or is it material and labor?
Material and labor. All we have to do is prepare their lunch and prepare them, and provide them with a porta pot.
Now, isn't there another grant you were applying for that needed matching funds? And would this grant contribute to those matching funds?
Yeah, this grant will contribute to those funds.
Very good.
So we're almost to the point where we can submit in January for the CDBG.
And that CDBG grant, because of this purpose, is not one that will have to be repaid. That's a good grant.
It's a true grant.
Okay. Excellent.
Now you can adjourn.
I was just going to say, the only other thing is, we tried last weekend, which was hugely successful. I think we overflowed the church. I don't think they were prepared for all the food we brought in. And we also collected $640, which we gave to them where they can fill in where they need.
Nice.
So, it went very well. So,
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that they make their donations to the New Hampshire Food Bank,
Right.
and that money does not necessarily help their local community other than buying
Right.
food. If they don't donate directly to the individual food banks,
Right.
the food banks are, the individual food banks have to actually go to the New Hampshire Food Bank and buy food from them.
Right.
So,
They have a big warehouse in Manchester. Very impressive, actually.
right, it's very impressive, but if you're the church or whatever that's being the food pantry and you're not getting the donations in order to go to the food bank, it doesn't do you a darn bit of good.
They had a big article in the paper a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, and I had come back from moose hunting and also from caribou hunting, and I had a freezer full, and I tried to donate before I went on another hunt. And the lady was all enthusiastic, I'm going to send a truck up, blah, blah, blah. I waited 3 days, she didn't send anything up. I ended up going to St. Vincent de Paul up in Laconia, and I filled 2 of their freezers before I headed out. Yeah, it was, and the gentleman and the lady up there at St. Vincent de Paul said, but this was on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and she said, by Saturday, this will all be gone. So, and it was all wrapped and cut, and I mean, it was just, there was nothing wrong with it, but it just, it just amazed me that, they wouldn't come up from Manchester and get it. And there was a big article in the Union Leader about it. If you had wild game to donate, if it was,
Yeah, there was one
even
just
if it wasn't cut up, they would take it. Well, this was all cut up, and I told her it was cut up, it's wrapped, it was professionally done, and
That's too bad.
yeah, it's sad. It really is. I mean,
No, for the time being anyways, we have the number.
Yeah, and that's our local food pantry, so
Yeah.
that's excellent, excellent, excellent.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn now.
I will second that.
I second
We
it.
have a motion and a second to adjourn. Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. No one's opposed. Excellent, thank you. I would have forgotten those and been looking for them tomorrow.